Hello, my dear friends. I'm James Lioncourts, and I want to welcome you to our channel, a place where we tell real-life stories sent by extraordinary people. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and stunning comebacks that prove it's never too late to start again. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of these powerful journeys. And if you've been with us for a while, welcome back. Grab a cup of tea and maybe a tissue or two, because today's story will speak straight to the heart. It's the story of a woman whose 60th birthday didn't begin with laughter, cake, or candles, but it ended with something far more beautiful and completely unexpected. Anastacia Whitmore stood in her tiny kitchen, wearing the same pearl earrings her husband gave her on her 30th. The table was set for 5, one plate for each of her children, one for herself, napkins folded, her famous apple cobbler still warm, balloons tied to the dining chairs, slightly sagging now. She looked at the clock. 4:17 p.m., no calls, no text messages, not even a missed FaceTime. The candles on the small cake flickered, stubbornly hopeful. She lit them anyway, one by one, then sat down in silence. Maybe they're running late, she whispered. She waited, and waited. Then, with a deep breath and a tiny shake of her head, she leaned in and blew out all 60 candles alone. The room fell still. The silence was loud. She gathered her plate and walked to the sink, and that's when she heard it. A knock at the door. Soft, delicate, almost hesitant. She paused. Her heart skipped. Was it one of them? She opened the door slowly. There was no one there. But on the welcome mat, a small cream-colored envelope. No name, no stamp, just the words written in sharp ink. For what you did, thank you. Anastacia turned the envelope over. No sender, no seal, nothing familiar. Her fingers trembled. This wasn't from her children. This wasn't a birthday card. This was something else. And she had no idea who had left it, or why. Asterisk, before the envelope, before the silence, there was laughter. Not loud, boisterous laughter. No, Anastacia Whitmore was never that kind of woman. Her laugh was soft, like the sound of warm soup being stirred, comforting, familiar, steady. After her husband Gerald died in a work accident nearly 30 years ago, Anastacia raised their 3 children alone. No life insurance, no backup plan, just a steady paycheck from her job as a school secretary and a mountain of bills that never quite stopped coming. But she managed. She clipped coupons, wore shoes until the soles gave up, and said no to herself 1,000 times just to say yes to her children once. They were close. So close, in fact, that her coworkers used to say, "Anastacia, those kids adore you. They'd never forget you." But something did change. It didn't happen all at once. No slammed doors, no shouting matches. Just the calls got shorter. The visits got rarer. The excuses got creative. Mom works insane right now. Mom, the kids have soccer. Mom, can we FaceTime next week? Weeks became months. Months became silence. Still, Anastacia never complained. She told herself they were busy, that they'd call, that maybe, just maybe, she had done her job too well. They were strong, independent adults. Wasn't that what she wanted? But deep down, something inside her whispered another truth. A memory, a conversation from long ago that she had buried under casseroles, church potlucks, and bedtime stories. Asterisk, it was something she had said, not in anger, but in desperation, to protect someone else. And now, as she stared at that envelope again, she wondered if it had finally come back to find her. Anastacia kept the envelope on the corner of the kitchen table. She didn't open it that night. She wasn't ready. Instead, she sat by the window, watching the last bit of sunlight dip behind the neighbor's fence. The same neighbor who used to borrow sugar and now barely waves. She remembered when her house was loud, filled with noise, music, muddy shoes, forgotten science projects, and pancake Saturdays. She remembered 3 voices shouting, "Mom, where's my backpack? Mom, can I stay up late? Mom, you're the best." And now, just the ticking of an old wall clock and the hum of a nearly empty fridge. She wasn't bitter. Not exactly. She just missed being someone's first thought. She missed holidays that weren't organized in Google calendars. Missed being called just because. Missed someone asking, "Mom, are you okay?" But she had no one to tell this to, because Anastacia was the strong one, the dependable one, the one who never cried. Even now, no one would suspect that her heart felt like a storage closet full of moments no one asked about any more. She picked up the envelope again, ran her fingers over the edge. It had no return address, no handwriting. She recognized, but something in her gut told her this wasn't a mistake. Someone had meant for her to find this. She placed it beside the candles she never got to blow out with company, beside the untouched cake, beside her dignity. And still, she waited for a message, for a call, for anything. Instead, she heard her own voice in her head. "You're always so available, Mom. Maybe that's the problem." A sentence her oldest daughter once said, without looking up from her phone. And just like that, the tears came. She wiped her eyes and reached for the envelope again. This time, she opened it, and what she read didn't match anything she expected. Asterisk, asterisk. The paper was thick, old-fashioned, slightly yellowed around the edges, like something pulled from a forgotten drawer. Anastacia unfolded it slowly, expecting a birthday wish. Maybe a kind neighbor who felt bad. Maybe one of the ladies from church. But the message was short and chilling. "I remember what you did. Meet me tomorrow at 3 p.m., corner of Maple and 9th. No signature, no name, no explanation. Just that. She stared at the words. Read them 3 more times. Her mind raced in circles. What did I do? Who remembers? Why now? Her first instinct was to throw it away, call it junk, a prank, blame the wrong address. But something deep inside wouldn't let her. A pressure in her chest, a whisper from memory that refused to stay buried. She looked around the house, familiar walls, family photos, everything in place, except her piece. And then she saw it. A tiny detail at the bottom corner of the page, almost invisible, stamped in ink, barely legible. 1982. Anastasia's hands froze. She hadn't thought of that year in decades. She tried not to, but now, that number stared back like an old photograph left in the sun too long. Her fingers trembled. She set the note down, stood slowly, and walked to the closet. Way in the back, behind unused winter coats, sat a dusty box she hadn't touched in years. Inside it was the reason she couldn't sleep that night, and the reason she knew she'd be at Maple and 9th at exactly 3 p.m. Asterisk, asterisk. The next day, Anastacia took longer than usual to get ready. She didn't know what to wear, or why she even cared. But still, she pressed her nicest blouse, touched up her hair, and wore the perfume Gerald used to like, the one that smelled like lilacs after rain. At exactly 2:37 p.m., she left the house. Her heart pounded with each block she walked. Maple and 9th. That corner hadn't meant anything in years, not since. Back then, she arrived 5 minutes early. It was quiet. A light breeze stirred the leaves. The street was almost empty. Just a mother pushing a stroller, and an old man walking a poodle too big for its sweater. Anastacia waited, her palms damp, her chest tight. What was she doing here? Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe no one would come. She looked at her watch. 2:59 p.m. And then, a black sedan pulled to the curb. Slow, quiet, familiar. The back door opened, and he stepped out. His hair was grayer now, his posture slower, but she knew that walk. Samuel Beecham, the younger brother of her old friend, the one she had helped, the one who disappeared. He stood still for a moment, then walked toward her, carrying a small wooden box. He didn't smile, didn't wave. He stopped 2 steps away, looked her straight in the eye, and said 6 words that hit harder than anything she'd expected. "I never forgot what you did." Anastasia's knees nearly gave out. The air thickened. Her hands trembled. She could barely breathe. Samuel gently handed her the wooden box. "I think this belongs to you." Inside, something moved. A rattle, a memory, a ghost from 1982. And Anastacia knew the past wasn't done with her yet. Anastacia held the box gently in her hands. It was light, made of pale wood, worn around the edges. Its brass latch clicked softly when she opened it. Inside was a letter, old, yellowed, written in her own handwriting. A letter she had written, but never sent. Next to it, a photograph. 3 people. Anastacia, her old friend Eliza, and Eliza's little daughter, all 3 smiling in a dimly lit kitchen. The same kitchen Anastacia stood in the night they arrived, soaked from rain and fear, scrawled in blue ink at the corner of the photo. Safe, finally. Her breath caught, and then came the memory. Back in 1982, Anastacia was 36, still new, to widowhood, still figuring out how to raise 3 kids alone. That night, Eliza showed up, bruised, terrified, clutching her daughter's hand. Her husband was looking for them, and he was powerful, dangerous. Anastacia didn't hesitate. She hid them. For 3 long months, they lived in silence, curtains drawn, no phone calls longer than a few seconds. She even told her children that Eliza was a distant cousin just passing through. But the truth? She helped Eliza disappear. She signed papers under a false name, found a contact who knew how to change identities, and never told anyone, not even her closest friends. One of them, a dear woman named Martha. Samuel Beecham's sister. When Martha found out about the secrecy, the hush-hush visits, and the sudden lies, she assumed the worst. That Anastacia was hiding some scandal, maybe an affair. The friendship ended, and with it, Anastacia's place in their church community. She was whispered about, judged, left behind, but she never once regretted it, because Eliza and her daughter got away. They got to live. Samuel cleared his throat. "She passed away 3 months ago," he said quietly. "I was going through her things when I found this box. The letter, the photo, and this." He reached into the box and pulled out a small, hand-carved wooden cross. On the back, etched with a pocket knife, "She gave me a second chance to live." Eliza Anastacia's lips parted, but no words came. She held the cross to her chest, and for the first time in years, she felt seen. The letter trembled in her hand. Her past wasn't a stain. It was a seed. And now, finally, it was blooming. **** Anastacia sat on the edge of her bed, the open letter resting on her lap. The paper felt soft from age, its edges curled slightly, like it had been read more than once, just never aloud. She took a deep breath and began to read it in a whisper. "Dear Eliza, if you're reading this, then you made it. You're alive, safe. I hope your little girl still dances in the kitchen. I hope she never again flinches at footsteps in the hallway. I want you to know I wasn't brave. I was scared. Every day, I thought about giving up. But then you'd smile at her while brushing her hair, and I knew I had no right to quit. You once said I saved your life, but the truth is, you saved mine. You gave me a reason to fight again, to believe. I still had a purpose. If someday the world is kind enough to return this letter to you, remember, you were never a burden. You were the proof that love, even hidden, silent love, changes everything. With all my heart, Anastacia, she folded the letter slowly. Samuel sat across from her, silent. Then he spoke, almost as if to himself. She kept it in a tin box with her daughter's baby bracelet. She called you the angel in the dark. Anastacia blinked hard. The tears were there again, but they weren't heavy anymore. They felt cleansing. Why now? She finally asked, why bring this back to me? Samuel looked at her, eyes soft, voice steady. Because her daughter is grown now. She asked about the woman who helped them. And when I found the letter, I knew you deserved to know she never forgot. Anastacia held the letter to her chest. For the first time in decades, she didn't feel like the forgotten one. She felt remembered. But as the clock struck 5 p.m. and the light in the room began to dim, Samuel rose to leave. He opened the door, then turned back. Anastacia? They weren't the only ones who misunderstood your silence. She furrowed her brow. What do you mean? He paused. Ask your children. And then he was gone. Asterisk that evening, Anastacia sat by her kitchen window, the same window where she used to wait for school buses, Sunday visits, birthdays. But the silence had become louder with each passing year. And now, she finally understood why her children hadn't just gotten busy. They hadn't simply grown apart. They had pulled away, intentionally, quietly, because they thought she had a secret, a dark one. Some time ago, her youngest son, Jacob, had found a photo, the same one from 1982. He had asked her about it, and in that moment, Anastacia panicked. She deflected, changed the subject. She wasn't ready. She thought she was protecting them, still, but instead, she only deepened the mystery. Over time, whispers spread through the extended family. Rumors that perhaps their mother had once been involved in something scandalous, maybe even unfaithful to their father. And worse, they believed she had lied to them. Her own children got as the years passed. The stories solidified. They stopped calling as often. Birthdays became text messages. Visits turned into guilt-filled promises, always postponed. And Anastacia never defended herself. Because how could she? How could she explain something that even now felt wrapped in fear? Until now, she had proof. She had the letter, the photo, the cross, the truth. She placed everything carefully in a small box, just like the one Samuel had brought her. And she made a decision. Tomorrow, she would call them. But before that, she looked out the window once more. And across the street stood someone, watching. A young woman, curly hair, hands in her coat pockets, eyes glassy. It was her daughter, Rachel. She'd been there the whole time, watching. Their eyes met through the window pane. And in that single moment, no words, no gestures, just that quiet gaze. Anastacia saw something she hadn't seen in years. Not distance, but doubt. And hope. Asterisk the next morning. The phone rang at exactly 10:02 a.m. Anastacia answered on the second ring. It was Samuel. You free for coffee? She hesitated. Then said softly, I think it's time. They met at a quiet cafe 2 blocks from where they first spoke. A small place with green booths and faded menus. The kind of place where you pour your own. Refills. Anastacia wore a pink scarf, a soft color she hadn't worn in years. Samuel was already seated, waiting with 2 cups of black coffee. No cream. No sugar. Just the truth. He slid one toward her. You don't owe me anything, he began. She smiled, a tired, kind smile. I don't know if this is for you or for me, but I need to say it. And for the next 20 minutes, Anastacia spoke. She told him everything. How afraid she was back then. How angry she became afterward. How lonely the silence made her. She told him how being the strong one turned into being the forgotten one. How she kept forgiving her children for not calling, even when it stung. How sometimes on her birthday, she'd bake a small cake anyway, just in case. And when she finished, she looked up, expecting judgment. But Samuel just nodded. You didn't hide from the world. You just protected too many people to explain it all. A pause, and then Samuel said, They need to hear this. Anastacia looked down at her hands. They don't want to. They made up their minds about me. He shook his head. Maybe, but they don't have your version. And you've carried it long enough alone. Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves danced along the sidewalk. Back at her house, a car was already parked in the driveway. It wasn't Samuel's. Anastacia stepped onto the porch. And there, standing at the bottom of the steps, was her youngest son, Jacob. No words, just a nervous half-smile, and eyes full of something she hadn't seen in him since he was 12. Regret. Anastacia opened the front door slowly. Her hand trembled slightly on the knob, not from fear, but from disbelief. Jacob stood on the porch, holding a crumpled grocery bag. I brought cupcakes. I didn't know what kind you liked. Now, she blinked. The last time she'd seen him face to face, his daughter was still in diapers. Now, she was nearly driving. Anastacia gestured him in with a soft nod. They stepped into the same kitchen where that photo from 1982 had been taken, where secrets had once lived in silence, where birthdays had become quiet ceremonies of hope. Jacob placed the bag on the counter and exhaled deeply. Rachel told me you've been different lately. Anastacia turned. Different how? He shrugged. I don't know. Softer. Or maybe just more honest. She smiled gently. Maybe I finally stopped being afraid of what honesty might cost. They sat at the kitchen table. 2 cupcakes, 1 candle, no music, no small talk. Just space and silence that didn't hurt anymore. Mom, Jacob finally said, I found that photo years ago. The one with the woman and the little girl. She nodded. I figured. I thought it meant something else. I asked you. You shut down. I was still protecting them, she said, and maybe still protecting myself. It made us feel like we didn't know you at all, he admitted. Like there was this other life you lived that didn't include us. She reached across the table and touched his hand. I never wanted to leave you out. I just didn't want you to carry what I carried. There was a long pause. Then he pulled something from his jacket pocket, a folded paper. He slid it to her. It's a letter from Rachel. She wrote it yesterday, after standing outside your house. She said she finally saw you. Anastacia unfolded the note. It was short, simple, honest. Grandma, I'm sorry I judged you by what I didn't know. Thank you for being brave when no one saw it. I see it now. I love you. Her breath caught. She closed her eyes for once. Tears didn't sting. They healed. Just then, the doorbell rang. Jacob looked toward the entryway. That's probably Rachel. And maybe the others. Anastacia rose slowly, walked to the door, opened it, and there they were. Her oldest son, Matthew, holding a tray of deviled eggs. Her daughter, Carla, wearing the same old cardigan Anastacia had knitted in 1993. Rachel, with flowers. Even Carla's teen boys, awkward and clearly forced to smile, were there. And behind them, balloons. A happy birthday banner, slightly crooked. And the smell of something homemade, something that wasn't store-bought. No one said. Much at first. They just looked at her. At the woman they thought they'd lost to time. And then Matthew spoke. We should have come sooner, but we're here now. And if you'll have us. She opened her arms. Of course I will. I never stopped. As the house filled with voices and forks clinking against plates, Anastacia stepped back for a moment. Let it all sink in. She looked at the cupcakes still on the counter and whispered to herself, maybe this was the birthday I was really waiting for. Asterisk. Anastacia looked around the dining room. It was the same oak table her late husband had built with his own hands. A Christmas gift from 1985. For years, that table held simple dinners, school books, quiet prayers. And eventually, just silence. But today, it was full again. Matthew was slicing quiche like he was carving a turkey. Carla was folding napkins into fans, just like she used to as a little girl. Jacob stayed quiet, glancing at his mother with a mix of respect and something heavier, maybe guilt. Rachel laughed with her cousins, that kind of laughter that makes you remember you're alive. And Anastacia? She stood beside the table and just took it all in. Her hand rested gently on the chair that used to belong to her husband. You'd love this, Sam, she whispered. Grandma? Rachel called. Aren't you going to sit and eat? Anastacia smiled. In a minute, sweetheart. She needed to breathe it in first. Every detail. The sunlight on the hardwood. The sound of family. After all those years, it felt like coming home to a place she thought was gone. Mom, Carla, sighed, walking over with a wrapped box. We got you something. From all of us. You didn't have to. We know. That's why we did. Anastacia unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a simple white wood picture frame, and in it, a photo. That photo from 1982, but now restored, colored, framed. With an inscription on the wood that read, "A hero is someone who protects, even when no one understands." Anastacia covered her mouth, tears welling up. She didn't fight them. Not today. Today down. Finally, and looked around at the people she once feared she had lost. I don't need anything else today, she said softly. You being here, that's the gift. Before anyone touched their plates, Anastacia reached across the table. Her children followed her lead. Hands met, fingers curled gently. Let's say a prayer, she whispered, for the ones who came back and the ones who never really left. And in that moment, among joined hands and watery eyes, that old house didn't feel quiet anymore. It felt like home again. Asterisk. That night, long after the last cupcake had been eaten and the kitchen had gone quiet again, Anastacia stood by the window with a warm cup of tea. The house smelled like laughter and candles, like memories and something new. The dishes were done. The chairs were tucked in. And yet the space felt alive. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was living in a museum of what used to be. She was part of it again. She walked to the refrigerator. Taped to it, still, was the small envelope, the one that had started everything. She left it there on purpose, to remind her that even silence can carry miracles. If you're brave enough to answer the knock. She took a small piece of paper from the drawer, a worn pen, and she began to write, not to her children, not to the man from the past, but to herself. She wrote, you waited. You stayed kind. You never gave up completely. And now, look what came back to you. Then she folded the note and placed it under a tiny magnet right next to the envelope. "They came back," she whispered. "And so did I." She walked to the living room. Dot turned off the light and sat in the armchair with her tea, listening to the wind move through the trees. Outside, Dot, the house didn't feel empty, Dot. It felt held. And so did she. What do we learn from Anastacia Whitmore? That love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits, Dot, it waits behind unreturned calls, behind silence that aches, behind decisions misunderstood. But love that is real comes home, even if it takes decades, even if it arrives with gray hair and awkward hugs and a tray of cupcakes. If you're breathing, there is still time. Time to forgive, to come back to yourself. And now, my friend, if you made it this far, take a deep breath with me, because what a story, right? Anastacia Whitmore taught us something rare in a noisy world, that the quietest heroes often wear cardigans, bake for one, and carry years of unspoken love. She didn't demand applause. She didn't ask for credit. She just kept showing up, even when no one else did, Dot. So what can we take from this? That love, real love, never truly disappears, Dot. It may hide. It may get buried under misunderstandings, silence, or distance. But love remembers. And when we choose grace over bitterness, forgiveness over pride, miracles can still find their way to our doorstep. Dot, sometimes in the form of a knock, sometimes in the form of cupcakes. Dot, now, before you go, I want to ask you something. Was there someone you thought about while watching this story? Someone who needs to know they're not alone? Then share this video with them. You might be the knock on their door today, Dot. And hey, leave a comment below. Tell us what this story meant to you. Tell us how you came back to yourself. I read every word. Yes, even the long ones, though I might need glasses for that. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because next week, we'll be back with another story that heals, another journey worth taking, and maybe a few more cupcakes. Hit that like button if your heart needed this, because mine sure did. Dot, until next time, dear friends, stay kind, stay curious, stay home in your own heart. Dot, see you soon.